This is the Double Doinkers with Willie J and Nick Meyer. Check out the sleepers for the 2025 NFL season right here, right now. And welcome into the Double Doinkers. This is our first live stream, so if you end up watching this live, hey, bear with us. We're doing our thing. Of course, as you heard, we're talking about sleepers. That is players that, most of them are still going drafted, but they're not talked about nearly as much as those other folks. We did just have a bunch of episodes about our top players, so if you want to hear about the top end players, go check out our past 3-4 episodes. And then we've also did breakdowns of every single team and every single division. So please check those out if you're interested. Otherwise, what's going on, Willie? What's up?
Not much. I'm excited to get into this. I got my Bears jersey, Bears blanket. Kind of. I'm ready to get into it.
Heck yeah. All right, cool. Let's go ahead and let's just jump into news. If you want to kick us off with some news.
Yeah, there's been a lot going on the past week, just in general, because we've had training camp start. I believe the first camp was a week from this past Monday. So every camp's been practicing now. I believe this week all the offenses and defense are practicing with pads on. So they're actually doing like legit drills. You can take training camp things with a grain of salt. We've seen some players get a lot of buzz. We've seen some players not look so good. When I think of training camp, I always go back to like 4 years ago when there were so many reports of Jamar Chase and his drops. And the Bengals, this was the year they went to the Super Bowl, of course. The Bengals were like getting trashed for drafting him, and like he's dropping all his passes. He's going to be a bust. So I always try to avoid training camp buzz.
It's hard to though. And so this year the Hall of Fame game is actually tomorrow, July 31st. So we're starting off our preseason in July. I can't remember another year where they've ever started this early.
Yeah, that's wild. It is. Yeah, it's early this year.
It's Lions versus Chargers tomorrow. I likely will only watch highlights. Some of these preseason games I can't get too into. Just want to find out the news.
Is it? I think it's Trey Lance versus Hendon Hooker. I know Trey Lance is starting. I read that.
Oh, that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Get to see John Harbaugh yelling at Trey Lance. It's a good time.
Yeah.
But we do have other news, and so we won't talk necessarily about just the hype trains that are going to pick up and go out of control other than in the episodes. First off, we got to talk about Isaiah Likely. So Isaiah Likely, do you know the exact injury?
It was a foot injury, I believe.
And I think he's getting surgery, right?
He's going to get surgery, and he's expected to miss 6 weeks. And I don't remember if that's 6 weeks from the surgery date or the first 6 weeks of the season.
It's from the surgery date. I did see that because they talked about his week 1 status being in question.
Right. Okay. And he didn't end up on the PUP list or anything. So yeah, it's miss around 6 weeks in total.
But I still feel like that's pretty big news regarding Isaiah Likely.
It's the biggest injury in training camp, at least on the offensive side we've seen so far. Doesn't really affect my draft opinion on Mark Andrews. It's something to look at. I feel like he could be a good like waiver wire pickup for your like injured reserve spot if your league does that. Like pick him up like after your draft or something, a couple weeks. But again, I wasn't super high on Likely, but hopefully he gets better. The Ravens offense is still going to be awesome.
I don't want to bring up the next one, but I think I have to. Malik Neighbors and his new toe injury that he says is like a mosquito that won't go away. He's such a top end wide receiver that it's scary to see an injury like this. And as soon as someone says that it's nagging them so much, I worry that it's going to stick around in the season. Now, of course, I don't have a specific reason to feel that way other than the things that he's saying.
It's like the feet, the legs, the hamstring injuries. Those are the ones when you're a receiver, particularly that worry me. I mean, obviously running back too, because you're running with your legs, but like with hamstring and like toe injuries of receivers, it just always seems to be something that lingers and affects their game. Hopefully it's a nothing burger. Hopefully nothing comes of it, but that was a significant one.
Mm-hmm. And it's scary. He's just such a high end wide receiver. You're going to have to take him with the first round draft pick. Those are always, a lot more scary.
Yeah.
Some entertaining news that I shouldn't say entertaining. That's a messed up thing to say about a guy getting hurt. So some other news that we should talk about is Kenny Pickett suffered a hamstring injury, which means Flacco is taking all of the first string reps right now.
You can't say Kenny Pickett and entertaining in the same sentence. That's
It was bad in every way. I'm sorry, listeners.
that's the most offensive part.
This makes me happy for the Browns offense. They might actually have some usefulness.
It would be cool if Flacco goes out on top, even if it's just a starter on an awful team. Like if he goes out as a starter when he's like, what is he, like 42? He's got a Super Bowl ring. Like that's cool. I hope he does start for fantasy and for real life.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you can't be less exciting than Kenny Pickett. So that's true.
He was getting the first team reps before he. That's. Miserable.
I just think it's because they traded for him, which is just the worst decision in the start. But they did it, so they were gonna stick with it like they did with Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, it's true.
The Browns and quarterback issues.
Got to dig in their heels. It's
bad. I'm gonna eat crow on this one real quick. Zach Moss got released.
What did I say? I mean,
yeah, you said it. I said I'm gonna eat crow. I'm not gonna avoid this one. Yeah. So Taj Brooks is the other guy in town.
I guess so. I mean, also I'll give you the benefit of a doubt. I mean, he might have had an unreported injury. Honestly, I feel like there's maybe a sliver of trade value there. Not that the Bengals trade very often, but it's probably due to his maybe an injury performance.
He was on the PUP, I think, and they just released him afterwards.
That makes sense. The Titans released Treylon Burks, for he ending up on the PUP. It's over.
Oh man, and that was one of Cam Ward's top 5 players, though.
Crazy, yeah. Also, with the Bengals news, I early consideration. I think I'm gonna, and this is also based on training camp hype, whatever. I do want to bump up Chase Brown probably to my RB7 ahead of Josh Jacobs and CMC. There's really nothing to dislike about him. Not that I was again super high on Zach Moss, but he did affect Chase Brown's stock, and now it just feels like it's a slam dunk of Chase Brown. So wouldn't fault someone for taking him at the 1-2 turn at this point.
Yeah. I don't want to be that person, but I don't disagree with you in general.
Me neither, but somebody should.
Yeah. It's not a bad pick. It really could pay dividends. Xavier Worthy, it sounds like he has a concussion. He is in the concussion protocol. He got one. I can't imagine that impacting the regular season.
No.
We've just seen with concussions, sometimes they do linger and sometimes they don't reoccur. It's not how exactly it works.
No, I mean maybe it will affect his behavior later on, but that's more of a Chiefs receivers thing than anything.
Yeah. Do you have any other news you wanted to talk about?
I'm looking at this list I had here. The other one is Darnell Mooney. Sounds like he had a shoulder injury. Don't know a whole lot about that. I think I saw some estimates. All over the place, but it looked like it might have been like a few weeks he's going to be out of and probably not playing the preseason at all. He's uncertain for the opener, so that's something to look at. Yeah, just because he's the de facto wide receiver 2 in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
That's
big injury news. Yeah.
There's also Matthew Stafford hurt his back, but I don't think that's anything significant. They sound like they're managing it, and it's something that's reoccurred over time. So
I do remember him missing a season with a back injury, or like part of a season. It was a few years ago, I think, on the Lions. Also, Trey Hendrickson reported to camp. There's been no improvement on the signing talks, new contract with the Bengals, but he's reported to camp. Don't know details if he's practiced that much or anything like that, but I know he's like at least communicating with the Bengals.
That's a pretty big difference. A hold-in's better than a holdout.
Yeah.
McLaurin also wants $33 million per year, and the team is not close to that, per his saying.
What is that? What does that put him in the ballpark of? Isn't that like what Cooper
that's
is?
A little bit more than what DK Metcalf got, or exactly the same as what DK Metcalf just got.
That's fair.
So,
that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I don't know if the Commanders do it.
Okay. Well, Commanders.
That would be a weird situation. Yeah,
and Amander.
Yeah, you can take the Dan Snyder out of the Commanders, but you can't take the Dan Snyder out of the Commanders.
I just realized they're from the DC area, so it's like gerrymandering. That's whoa. It's a whole there's something there. Anyway.
Okay, let's move on to our sleepers. So we'll go ahead and start off with our QB sleepers. These are 2025 QBs that they might get drafted. People aren't really talking about them, and they're the ones that we don't see superstardom as expectations, but there is upside, and they can have a place on your team. So with that said, we are going to go ahead and we're going to start off with Trevor Lawrence of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Trevor Lawrence is a really good situation going into this year. So he's got a new coach, Liam Cohen, who is, for what everyone is hoping, an offensive mastermind of sorts after what he's been able to do with Baker Mayfield on the Buccaneers and how he kind of made that team a powerhouse offense, even with the awful defense. He was the offensive coordinator there, not the head coach, but now he is the head coach. Trevor Lawrence has Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter. Those are, like, in concepts, as strong a receiver tandem as anyone in this league. Like, if things drop the right way, they could be just as good as Chase and Higgins.
There's no doubt this is the best team he's ever had. Like, I know we said that after Urban Meyer left, and there's no way it could get worse, which was true. But I mean, just you can look at it on paper, having an incredible wide receiver duo potentially. But like, this is a team that really invested in their offense, specifically in building around Lawrence. Also, they fired their general manager finally, so it seems like they're taking things seriously. And I like Cohen and what he can bring out of a former number 1 overall pick who's had some doubters. He did that with Baker Mayfield. Something to look at.
100%. And I mean, we can't forget that Trevor Lawrence had that potential. This is something that's really important, is that it might be easy to forget because what has he done, right? Really, with all of these teams, he hasn't done anything that's been exceptional.
No.
But he's been in a really bad situation. Urban Meyer was probably the worst person you could possibly have as a head coach in Trevor Lawrence's situation.
Yeah, and it was just his rookie year, so there was all this hype and then it just disappointment. I mean, yeah, so far he's been like the Tua Tagovailoa of Blake Bortles. Like, he hasn't really done much, but I think the other thing we forget about too is that Trevor Lawrence has legs and he can score, he can rush. Even if he's not scoring rushing touchdowns, I see him having a similar rushing touchdown upside as Baker did in Liam Cohen's offense.
Yeah, I'm in on this. So currently he's, according to Fantasy Pros, his average draft position is 142. So that's a like 13th round. So you're definitely not having to draft him as a quarterback highly. This is one of those late round QBs that you could wait for and then take.
Yeah.
You could also do as like a QB on your bench if you're into that.
I'm a big fan of taking 2 quarterbacks late this year and just hoping for the best. Like, you're going to hit on one. So he's one to target for me for sure.
Yeah, and I like him a lot. I actually think Travis Hunter is going to do pretty well. And if you have Travis Hunter and Brian Thomas, I don't see any way that the quarterback doesn't have a solid floor at the very least. The ceiling could be there, but the floor should be rock solid if Travis Hunter hits as a receiver.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on. Our second quarterback we're going to be talking about tonight is Bryce Young, the Carolina Panthers quarterback. His current average draft position is 159, according to Fantasy Pros. I'm basing this on like a 12-team league. I think that's 13th, 14th round, right around there. My math is getting a little bit weary.
That's
but
like QB 20, something a little later than that, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, and Bryce Young has had a kind of a tough career so far, but he really started coming into his own at the end of last year. And he started really looking like he might be a solid starter in this league. He had some games where he really should have won against some pretty good teams. If you remember that Kansas City Chiefs game last year, that wasn't just because the rest of his team looked good. Bryce Young also looked really good.
He put up I don't remember exactly off the top of my head, but he put up some good PPR points against that Chiefs defense, which shows that he has a really safe floor, I think.
Now you added the highest drafted wide receiver in 2025 with Tet. A year of experience in the same system and a team that seems to have a lot of confidence in him from what I can tell. I really like him. Just in general, the wide receiver room around him is pretty exciting, honestly, which is a weird thing to say of Carolina. I mean, you've got Tet. Okay, I'm going to say exciting because I have one of my favorite players. We'll talk about him in a minute.
We'll talk about him.
So I don't know about really exciting, but it looks pretty solid and like it has at least like a solid depth to it.
And there's a lot of opportunity for different pass catchers. It's like if not somebody's not always open, if like Tet's getting guarded, like there's going to be other open guys. I want to look at real quick what Bryce Young's PPR points were in the last few weeks of the 2024 season. And of course,
Sure.
you can't always compare to the previous year, but not a lot has changed and things have just gotten better. He went off with 16, 23, 12, 27, 16, 36. I mean, that's double digits every single week, and he scored a touchdown, at least one touchdown in every single game after the week 11 bye.
Yeah, really, the only week you're looking at it being super disappointed is that 12-point week. But all quarterbacks have a bad week. They really do.
Josh Allen had like a 5 or 6 point week last year. Like, yeah.
Now, if you can imagine having Tet McMillan is going to help him out a lot, which I can imagine it will, then that floor might raise even. So I'm into it. I like him as a late pick.
Yeah,
I'm pretty strong on him.
Me too.
Mm-hmm. The last quarterback we'll talk about this time is going to be Drake Maye from the New England Patriots. So Drake Maye has rushing upside. It provides him at least a floor.
Mm-hmm.
I also think their offense this year is going to be pretty improved. They've got a new coach who actually has experience in this league and knows what he's doing. They brought in Stefon Diggs. They brought in Kyle Williams. They still have
Daniels.
He's the worst, but this is the one place where he's impervious to being bad. Gosh, I can't say good things with Josh McDaniels. Don't make me do that. So I'm not going to. But Maye was just on the border of serviceable last year. Like, it wasn't fully there, but you saw the potential in fantasy. Like, he would have these weeks where he's just airing it out. Booty would score a long touchdown, or he'd get a couple rushing touchdowns, And I think if you give him a bump and a consistent wide receiver.
And he's got a couple new wide receivers I think we'll mention that I'm excited about. Also, again, training camp, whatever, but he's apparently looked incredible and hasn't thrown a single pick. Which you could say something about the Pats secondary, but I mean, they got Christian Gonzalez, they got a couple other guys. Like, I don't know. I think that he also looked very accurate last year.
I love the upgraded offensive line.
Yep.
And I think that Drake Maye was taken second overall for a reason. We may not have exactly seen that, but we could see it.
Yeah.
Drake Maye is the only issue I have with him is I don't necessarily see top 3 upside. I don't see a path to it.
Same. And I mean, there is a lot of unknowns with the Patriots offense. Again, T-Law has a new coordinator this year, but we've seen what T-Law can do. We've only seen a half of a year really of Drake Maye. So high upside.
All right. So we're just giving you 3 QB sleepers. So we're going to move on to the running back sleepers. So our running back sleepers, we're going to start off with Tank Bigsby. So more Jacksonville talk. So Jags RBs are a group that I expect to have some good come out of this year. And we'll also talk about Travis Etienne a little bit here in a second. But for me personally, Tank's the one that I'm betting on. He looked like the more competent runner last year, and he has seemingly continued to look really great at camp this far. Liam's new system can support running backs and should open up opportunities for these running backs to actually score more touchdowns. And I'm not necessarily basing this all on the skill of Tank Bigsby. I'm basing this on the fact that I think Liam Cohen coming in can help them score a lot more touchdowns, and I think Tank Bigsby will be the guy who's scoring those touchdowns personally.
He's gonna be that goal line back that's big and gonna rush in there. Yeah.
So I like Tank Bigsby a lot, especially his ADP right now is 129.
Yeah,
so he's going pretty late.
I'd say him and Etienne both have RB2 upside. And I do like Etienne a bit more just because of what Liam Cohen has done. And again, he was only an offensive coordinator for a year, but clearly he liked his pass catching running backs. Tank Bigsby is not a pass catcher. Etienne, they picked up his 5th-year option for a reason. Like that, it really honestly surprised me. They could have cut him. They're paying him, decent money to be on the team for at least another year. So I do agree. I think Tank's probably going to score more touchdowns, but I think I like Travis just more as an overall piece for Trevor Lawrence, maybe.
This will bring us up to kind of a conversation, and this is one of those gut calls that you're going to have to make about a few different teams this year. So Travis Etienne, his average ADP is 88, so he's not going exactly super high, right? That's 7th round, I believe. But you have these backfields that are going to be a little bit more shaky. So you don't know who the starter is per se, or who's going to be the more fantasy relevant player, or who has the potential to burst out upside. I've talked about this in the past. I want parts of those backfields. So personally, I want Tank Bigsby. You want Travis Etienne. I think that it's worthwhile to take a shot, regardless of whichever one you're at.
Exactly, and exactly, it's about taking a shot on which running back, depending on how your team looks, depending on the route. I think we'll probably do an episode or talk about like where to look at, who to target in each round. But overall, there's points where you want to look and target specific players and rounds, and just bet on one. Yeah, do that gut call.
Yeah, and it pays off way more than you expect it to. Even when the players you think are old or washed or whatever. I mean, just look at J.K. Dobbins last year. He's the perfect example of this.
That is, yes. And he was again, the Chargers backfield. There was a lot of questions. We didn't know who was going to be the guy. So similar situation.
So we'll move on to our next player, and I'm going to let you start off, Willie, on this one. So we are going to talk about Ray Davis of the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, with Ray Davis, for me, it's super simple. I mean, I believe he was a rookie last year, and he was obviously the clear RB2. James Cook scored so many touchdowns. Josh Allen was basically the RB2 in terms of yards. But in the week that James Cook missed, and I clearly remember this because I had James Cook last year, and I picked up Davis off waivers and started him in Cook's place, and he delivered. Like, he just seamlessly, even though he's a different kind of back, he seamlessly picked up the Bills running back role. And I just think we're going to see more of him this year. I don't think we've seen his full potential. And if you want to consider him a handcuff, I think he's arguably the best handcuff you can pick up because there's a chance he could be the RB1, especially if James Cook holds out. There's really nothing to dislike about him except the fact that he's not the clear RB1, and he's going late.
He has looked pretty awesome in the opportunities that he's gotten. I can't disagree with that. This team wants to run. That's super clear. And Ray Davis is capable. The biggest knock for me, again, is just that I think James Cook is going to get worn out. Meaning they're going to give him a ton of opportunities. And Ray Davis will still get some, but that's the biggest knock. Ray Davis, the talent was clear and on display. So I don't have an issue with throwing.
You're saying they're going to run James Cook into the ground because it's his last year there.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, that's legitimate. That's another reason to like James Cook too.
Yeah. Ray Davis' skill can't be understated, though. If you watch some of the games where he's playing, he is definitely going to be a good running back. I just don't know this year's the year I want him, but that's why he's a sleeper.
Yeah.
Ray Davis, by the way, is being drafted to 139. So that's 10 picks after Tank Bigsby. This is hopefully not your starting lineup. So, it's an easy shot.
Great bench. Yeah, great bench spot.
All right. The next player I'm going to talk about might make someone sick. Almost certainly will make someone sick. I'm going to bring up Miles Sanders of the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, and if you're like, oh no, why would you talk about Miles Sanders? That's fair. I get it. I do get it. So hear me out when I say this. Completely unironically, camp reports are saying that Miles is easily the standout so far in that running back group.
Doesn't take much.
It really doesn't. If you think about the competition around Javonte Williams and Jaden Blue, I know people want it to be Jaden Blue because he's new, but that doesn't mean he's that good.
No, 5th round pick. Even though he played for Texas, like, he's 5th rounder.
That might be something that they work towards, maybe. But starting off, I mean, again, we're talking about the backfield. You don't know who's going to be the running back that comes out and is actually fantasy relevant. And if Miles Sanders is that guy, he's being drafted at 204 right now.
That's the end like just a flyer. And it's gut check. Who do you want to take a shot on? Also, in your point, Miles Sanders is the only running back on the Dallas Cowboys who we've actually seen have a very fantasy relevant season. I don't think he was an RB1 in Philly a few years ago, but he was up there. No, I think he might have been because I think he was going in like the 2nd round or something in 2021. I forget, but
then he ended up joining a Panthers team that wasn't very good and had all sorts of issues, and he looked awful. He did look awful too. But I mean, this is one of those backfields. Like if you think about Rico Dowdle last year, right? He was being drafted very late, and he ended up maybe not being serviceable for the whole season. He really came on a little bit later. But if you had him later, you enjoyed having him, and it was a pretty late pick. This is a free pick. If he
Totally.
pulls value, you're getting value. You're gonna love it. And I know, again, you don't have to spend anything on Miles Sanders. You could probably leave him undrafted and pick him up afterwards.
Yeah.
I would be worried that he starts week 1 though, and people see that.
Like it could be like announced ahead of time. So I think
Mhm.
that's a chance that happens. Yeah, I don't like Javonte Williams. So we'll just say that.
Yeah, that's part of that. Part of it is how much do you dislike the other running backs in the room. Let's talk about one of your picks here, Zach Charbonnet of the Seattle Seahawks.
So yeah, similar with the Ray Davis argument, Zach Charbonnet is probably the RB2 on this team, and he's shown a lot of potential when he's given the opportunity. Personally, though, I just have more faith in James Cook than I do Kenneth Walker, and I think that again, this is new offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak. We haven't really seen Kubiak in terms of run game. Like he's more known for his passing game, like strategy coordination.
Mhm.
So I don't really know off the top of my head if Kubiak uses just one running back or like switches off. I know historically with these guys, the Seahawks have used one running back. I really don't have faith in Kenneth Walker. And again, I've just been talking about the other guys around him. I really like Zach Charbonnet just as a player. I think he's really fun to watch. I think that he's shown that he can show up. And again, the Seahawks offense, I'm not super high on, but he's going at the point where you can take him and he has a legit shot to be, the RB1 on a team that, could be good. And I think that's worth the risk for me.
He's what I would consider a pretty good sleeper because I think that for me, Kenneth Walker is the clear starter, but Kenneth Walker's already hurt too. So you might really get a clear cut RB1 if Kenneth Walker goes down or if they end up splitting because of Kenneth Walker's health, which would not be the most shocking thing in the world at this point.
No.
And
Where's he going? Is he
so Charbonnet is at 102. So that's ninth
late.
round. I think I need to do math beforehand. So if you divide all these by 12, what is that?
I think like he could be your RB4. Like that's
Mm-hmm,
yeah.
mm-hmm. And the one thing I would say when you're drafting in the middle drafting, pay attention to whoever has Kenneth Walker. If they're coming up and you see Zach Charbonnet getting closer and closer, you might want to snag him a little bit earlier than that.
Yeah. And also if you do draft Kenneth Walker, pick up Zach Charbonnet maybe a round earlier. Yeah.
You have to. You have to. Okay, so the next group, we're going to talk about a group because sometimes this is just the way it has to be. We're going to talk about Washington Commanders, our running backs. So we've got Brian Robinson Jr. and Austin Eckler. Willie, start us off with Brian Robinson Jr.
So I was kind of like okay on Brian Robinson Jr. A few weeks ago, and then I started looking where he's going. He's going pretty late. He's going above Zach Charbonnet, but like he's still in that 7th, 8th round.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about this, and I was like looking at past trends and watching some videos about past trends in terms of projected top 5 offenses. And the reason you want players in top 5 offenses, specifically running backs, is because there is the potential to score a ton of rushing touchdowns. And I don't remember off the top of my head what it was, and you can take this with a grain of salt. But the Vegas odds for Brian Robinson's rushing touchdowns was like over 9 or 10.5, and it was more than some significant players like Alvin Kamara and I think even James Cook. And we'll talk about the Eckler in a second here, but there's a reality, very possible reality. The Commanders have another incredible offense, finished top 5, and I think they're going to use someone besides Jaden Daniels at the goal line. Again, I think Jaden Daniels could score a lot of touchdowns. We talked about that. I just think that the Commanders have the opportunity to score 30, 40-point games on a regular basis. And that's just a ton of touchdown opportunity for any of the Commanders running backs. I mean, B-Rob hasn't looked great. He hasn't hit 1,000 yards in a season, but I mean, he could go for 800 yards and like 16 touchdowns. I think pretty easy.
Yeah, he'd be that LeGarrette Blount of this offense.
Yeah.
Which is a great position to have. Don't get me wrong. Or the more recent reference of Jamal Williams, I think.
That's who I saw him compared to the most. And Jamal Williams was amazing that year.
Yeah, you do want to. I do want to talk about Austin Eckler a little bit because I have Austin Eckler as one of my sleepers. Now, I don't imagine you want Austin Eckler starting for your fantasy team. I don't really either. But I did want to look at it, and he was RB31 in points per game last year, including some games that he left with injuries. He was starting to get more productive towards the end of the season until it was derailed by injury. And he even had a top 5 finish on the season. He finished at RB4, I think, in the middle. I can't remember the exact week.
Wow, and that's significant.
But he has a lot of things kind of going for him, and I could see him being this incredible flex and fill in for your team,
Mm-hmm.
where he's not necessarily someone you want to rely on, but he's someone who could put up points at any time. He's a great receiver. He is a great goal line running back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that they need a bunch of great goal line running backs, but he's also just got a good feel for the game. If you watch him play, he takes hard hits, which is a little bit rough, and that's where you start worrying about the concussions again, like last year.
Mm-hmm.
But he knows when to take hard hits. He takes the hard hits that can pop him open and free him. Again, this isn't someone I'm saying, hey, go 0 RB and get this guy as one of your starters. Please don't do that, and don't mishear me. But I am saying I think he's a fantastic bench stash, and he's going at 133. So 11th round.
That's pretty close to free. And I think with Austin Eckler, like there's understandable reason to fade him, but like obviously he's produced in the past. And there's a reason the Commanders signed him to a 2-year deal and not a 1-year deal. There's a reason they brought him back. They're going to use him, and there's a lot of upside. I'm actually, I think week by week grown higher on the Commanders running backs.
I mean, hey, if they lose McLaurin, they're going to need to come up with production some other ways, right? And so the running backs are going to be part of that. I could see them really like getting the running backs more involved in the passing game, and that's huge for their value.
I could see Eckler having a J.K. Dobbins type year. Yeah. Different kind of player, and obviously B-Rob's there, but in terms of potential, I think he at least has the ceiling of J.K. Dobbins last year.
Let's see. Okay, so let's move on. We're going to talk. Well, actually, I just have an honorable mention, so this will be a quick little one. I do want to talk about Jordan Mason for just real quick. He's apparently splitting 50-50 reps with Aaron Jones in Minnesota, and Jordan Mason has shown some skill. So if he ends up in a timeshare with Aaron Jones and that's significant, I think you want Jordan Mason. He's at 109 right now. I think that might shoot up, and that's where it might be an issue. But that's going to be, in theory, a good offense that you want a piece of.
Good point.
Okay, anyone else you want to mention here?
I might at the end here. I might rip off some rookies on different positions, but that's all I got.
You may notice we've been avoiding rookies pretty strongly. That's because I love rookies, so they're not sleepers for me. They're people who I will jump on no matter what, and it's just one of those hard things. I see a rookie and I'm like, but what if I gotta take this guy?
And my main league is a keeper league, so I'm particularly high on rookies each and every year.
It's just rookies are fun. They feel really good when you draft them and they break out. It just feels exactly like you're like, I got it.
I had one guy, Sage, in my fantasy league. Shout out Sage. Got Brian Thomas Jr. and Brock Bowers last year.
So keeper league, that's he's
nasty.
He's set up for a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna move on to our wide receiver sleepers. We're gonna go ahead and start off with one that I actually mentioned the name of on accident earlier. Stefon Diggs of the New England Patriots, currently going at 93. So he is not super late, but I think he's later than his potential warrants. He comes into a wide receiver room with a clear wide receiver 1 opening. No one has been able to step into that wide receiver 1 slot. And it's a team that seems to clearly want Diggs to be their wide receiver 1. He's older, but I think this is kind of the same strategy that worked so well in Buffalo. They said, hey, we need a wide receiver 1. We need this alpha dude who's willing to come in and just be that alpha dude. And Stefon Diggs, if you've watched interviews with him, it's very clear he'll be that alpha wide receiver, even if he's not the most skilled in the team.
But he still has that. He's really good in this slot. He has that potential. I really think, I'm looking up his stats real quick. I really think that his situation in New England is so similar to Houston last year, where again he's going to a team with kind of some unknowns, has some hype, second-year quarterback around a bad on paper a bad offensive line, and he had the ACL tear. He's coming off of that. He doesn't have a significant injury history, and on the Texans last year, he put up, before his ACL tear, he was putting up 27, 19, 18, 14, 19, 12. Like, that's a safe floor for a receiver that, if you're drafting him where he's at, is, I think, objectively like your wide receiver 3 or like first bench spot. And yeah, there's a clear opportunity for him here where he could, again, not break out because he's done it obviously, but like really show potential on a team that needs that clear cut wide receiver 1.
100% agreed. I think at the very least he'll be a solid contributor to a fantasy team if he's on the field. That's
Yeah.
literally my only worry is that he gets off the field for something, but that's not something I'm worried about when I'm drafting.
No, there's no way he's going to get ignored on the field too. He obviously might have some dud weeks, but if he's on the field, he's going to be a part of his offense.
Yeah, he'll make sure he is.
He will.
Okay, so next wide receiver we're going to talk about is Josh Downs from the Indianapolis Colts. He's going 111. I know Josh Downs has recently got a lot more hype around him, and I think there's a good reason for that. However, I'm just going to go into the spiel. I don't really love the Indianapolis Colts offense this year for pretty obvious reasons. However, I think Downs is a unique player, and he has the skill set to be a really strong fantasy asset regardless. It's just the way he plays. Like, bad quarterback play might actually help him out a little bit because they're going to need him as an outlet. If Daniel Jones ends up starting, I think he could be like a more skilled Wan'Dale, honestly. And Wan'Dale he had his moments, and Wan'Dale's not a bad player. Don't get me wrong.
No, I want to mention Wan'Dale real quick on this as an honorable mention too, just because he's basically a free pick, and you're going to get him for free, and he gets a lot of touchdown PPR upside. And yeah, with Downs, I think that we saw Daniel Jones, again, different players, but we saw Daniel Jones feed Malik Neighbors for at least part of last year. And I feel like Danny Dimes hasn't had a lot of great wide receiver play, and he's locked into some guys when he's had them. And I think with injuries and with kind of the ambiguous receiving core situation, I think Downs is probably the wide receiver one on this team. And that's there's a huge boon there in PPR, even on a bad offense.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I don't love the Colts, but I think Josh Downs will still be super solid, and he's going late enough that I'm in on a receiver on a bad team for that price. I also think the Colts could be down a lot, so they're going to have to throw more than they want to.
Mm-hmm. And Downs is the kind of guy you want to throw to. You don't want to throw to Tyler Warren. Again, Warren's great, but Downs is more of the downfield kind of guy, the one that can get the yards after catch down the field.
Yeah. I like him. I don't really want him as my first two wide receivers, but you don't have to get him as that. So
exactly.
Tre Harris, Los Angeles Chargers.
Tre Harris, I think, is the first rookie we're mentioning as one of the key guys. I feel like Tre Harris, I've talked about him enough in past episodes that I want to mention him just because he's really becoming my guy for me. I've heard good things about Quentin Johnson in training camp. Maybe QJ is still the wide receiver too. I just see Tre Harris, and again, he's coming from a Lane Kiffin offense, which does not translate directly to the NFL. I feel like that more reflects on the quarterback play of like a Jackson Dart. But Tre Harris was his primary target last year. And again, Tre Harris is just this diverse enough of a wide receiver. Like, he's like elite yards after the catch potential. And he's going to a team that has great coaching, a player in Justin Herbert who's looking for, it's not a great example like 1-to-1, but like Justin Herbert needs another Mike Williams. He needs another Keenan Allen. Obviously, he has one of those guys is one of his main guys in Ladd McConkey, but there still needs to be a number two. And I think Tre Harris's upside is just really immense as a player, and especially in this offense. He's someone that I think when I've done mock drafts, I've taken him in like 9 out of 10 of my mocks. And he goes late. You can get him in like the 11th, 12th round.
Yeah, it's funny. Fantasy Pros doesn't even have an ADP for Tre Harris. So
that's wow. Okay, that's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't expect that to necessarily stay the same. I think he'll sneak up because we saw they have ranks out to the 200s. So
yeah.
I don't disagree with any of it. I think LA Chargers have such. I mean, we saw. What did Harbaugh say about? He recently said that the biggest issue with the Herbert's game was that everyone else needed to step up to his level.
So he loves Herbert, man.
It's hilarious. I love the gifs and stuff of him watching Herbert. It is funny. So Tre Harris could be part of that. I mean, they brought him in for that reason, right? They need these offensive pieces. So if he steps up, why not? The only real problem is Ladd McConkey. I mean, everyone else is not set in stone. Quentin Johnson could be great, but like
they're so different. Like Harris and McConkey are just such different players, such different builds. I think they complement each other well.
Yeah. Okay. So let's move on. I have to do a shout out for this guy. There's just no way I couldn't. I'm going to talk about Hunter Renfrow from the Carolina Panthers.
I'll give you your minute here.
Okay. So Hunter Renfrow was an all-star in 2021. And right now he's getting rave reviews out of camp. So Dabo Swinney, Clemson's head coach, talked him into putting on the pads again because he almost retired due to ulcerative colitis, which is apparently a very bad disease that I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to describe to you here.
It's like an acute symptom that comes from Josh McDaniels' itis.
Yeah, exactly. Josh McDaniels showed up and stressed him out so much that he got ulcerative colitis, dude. There's talk of Renfrow returning to form. I mean, a lot of people are saying that he looks amazing out there. He's got all the skills. He's a Superman in pads. And maybe this is just that I love Renfrow, so I see all of his news somehow. But, they've got press conferences where they're asking the quarterback about him. They're asking him about all his teammates. It really seems great. This is a moonshot. It is a moon. Trust me. You're either going to get something or you're going to get nothing. And I think you'll know right away. If he's not on the field week 1, you can cut this guy. But I love the potential here. If I'm in Vegas, I'm throwing $5 on comeback player of the year, Hunter Renfrow.
I will say the only thing. Okay, I'll just read off his 2021 stats. He had 103 receptions for 1,038 yards and 9 touchdowns, and he made the Pro Bowl. And again, that was just a few years ago.
And I can't explain, like, he is such a he's a what do they call it? He's like a free agent. No, he doesn't run routes very well, right? What he does is he fills out spaces and he creates separation based on his ability to freestyle on the field.
He's kind of like a tight end in some ways, even though he's a little guy.
Just if you listen to any of the cornerbacks from the Chargers in 2021 interviews about who the hardest player to guard was, it's always Hunter Renfrow. And honestly, he was part of the reason why everyone was so excited until Josh McDaniels killed him. So
and he was doing a legitimate medical issue too. So.
I'm in on him. I'm just saying, keep an eye out. We'll move on though. Now we're going to talk about a couple of position groups because there's a few names we're going to talk about. So the Broncos wide receivers. Go ahead and hit us off, Willie.
So you're even higher on him. I'm high on Courtland Sutton. I think he's just such a safe floor. There's potential in this Broncos offense, and I'm high in the Broncos offense this year as a whole. There's potential here for one of these guys to break out into a superstar. Again, that's lofty expectations. It's not likely. I'm not labeling one of them as the next Michael Thomas. But Pat Bryant and Marvin Mims Jr. are two of my favorites here. Marvin Mims really came on at the end of last season. He's a former second-round pick. I think he's going into year 3. And he's just an interesting player to watch. He's fun. He really started a former connection with Bo Nix at the end of last season. And with Pat Bryant, he is a third-round pick. Played for Illinois. Super tough dude. He's shown a lot of flashes, not necessarily as a superstar wide receiver 1, but he's playing on a mediocre Illinois offense. This is kind of a big gut check for me and faith in the Broncos offense, but I would just look at these guys because they're going pretty late. And I think we've argued even Courtland Sutton's undervalued. And this receiving core is just a receiving core to take that gut check shot on, I think.
Yeah, so we're looking at this. The ADP of Courtland Sutton is 50. The ADP of Marvin Mims is, I thought I had it, and I do. It is 138. Oh, I have to go back a second. I found Tre Harris. I didn't put the apostrophe at the end of his name.
Oh, how dare you?
I know. Well, it's messed up. He's 135. But so Mims is right after Tre Harris. And then I would be shocked if Bryant was on this list at all.
Yeah, no, he's a free pick. He's going to be like a waiver wire pickup of anything.
He's 210, so.
Yeah. And so again, maybe you don't draft him, but again, if you last pick, why not?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still highest on Courtland Sutton. I think he was undervalued, and I think he has a chance to really finish as a top, 12 wide receiver this year. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's not him, then it'll be one of these two guys, or because it can't all be Evan Ingram, no matter how much we like that guy, and it can't all be RJ Harvey, no matter how much we like that guy.
And the Deshaun Bailey and Troy Franklin, the rookies last year, I just like them a little bit less based on draft capital and just I don't know. Like Troy Franklin's like a really more of a down the field guy. He didn't look great last year. Bailey had some flashes, but I think he's undersized or I forget. There was some knock on him that I
He had like a PPR pop off games where he was in the right place at the right time.
like. Yeah, exactly. There's some in his game. He had some lucky games. Not to knock him, but particularly with Mims, that's really low end for I think where he could finish. We haven't seen his full potential yet. And like I said, young second round pick in an ascending offense. There's always a guy every single year that's a day 2 guy that's young that explodes, and it could be Mims.
And I talked about how you want a running back in an ambiguous backfield, right? The wide receivers are the same thing. If you think that this offense, and particularly Bo Nix, is going to have a great passing year, you're going to want pieces of it.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean one of them will automatically finish as, a wide receiver 1 or a wide receiver 2, but I think your chances are pretty significantly higher, especially for where they're going. Mims and Pat Bryant are just a good guess.
Yeah. Good guess. Go check.
Well, and let's go into our next group. So we've got the Raiders wide receivers, and that's a group of I know them. You may not know them, listener, because who does? So you've got Jacoby Myers is easily their most known asset, and I think everyone kind of agrees that he's got the potential to be the same thing he's always been, a super solid wide receiver 2 at best of times.
He was a solid wide receiver 2 in fantasy in points per game last year, which kind of surprised me. I knew he was good, but he was just so consistent in that flex spot that he finished with a lot of points.
He's at 94 ADP, so wide receiver 43. And that's free money almost at that point.
He's going to return value 100%.
And then you've got the 2 rookies, Jack Besh, who's at 146, and then Dante Thornton. And Dante Thornton is a free pick right now. I expect that to change based on the amount of hype he's getting in camp.
A lot of hype in camp, yeah. And I say that as a non-Raiders fan. I've heard about his hype.
And then there's Trey Tucker there. I should mention him just as a person that exists. He's at 3 or 4. It doesn't matter. He's not getting drafted, really.
No.
But you can't expect Brock Bowers to be the only receiving option in this room that gets love. And with Geno Smith showing up and Chip Kelly there, and this offense should be markedly better than it was last year. There's almost no way that it's not, and it's particularly the passing and running games. Now, the passing game, unless you think it's all Jacoby Myers, you're going to have one of these other guys provide value. I think money right now is on Jack Besh, but the hype and training camp has definitely been the other way of Thornton. And then I don't want to discount Trey Tucker as like this random pop off. He's the ultimate. What is the word for it? Like, he's gonna score you a touchdown. He's gonna get you nothing.
Yeah, the ultimate like wild card kind of. Yeah.
But
also, just gonna say with Myers, if he's coming in wide receiver 43, that's like barring injury, that's a smash return value, like 100%. If you're in your league and you maybe are light on wide receiver, you went RB heavy rounds 5, 6, 7. Or took a quarterback or tight end there, and you need a good wide receiver 3 or like a really high end wide receiver 4. Myers is going to return value. And again, maybe I'm jinxing it. Maybe he's gonna raise, but not much. He's gonna return value no matter where he goes, I think.
I find it hard to think of anything else because if you watch him, he's just been such a kind of a pro. And even with the Patriots and some of their worst years, he was there and he was still putting up solid value. He doesn't necessarily have that elite skill set, but he's in the right place. He's a PPR machine.
And he kind of is the jack of all trades, where he can do a lot of different things. Maybe not well, but he's he's diverse enough. He can get stuff done.
He's got some of the best hands in the NFL too. I think he only had I think it was like officially listed as 1 or 0 drops last year, and he had some more than that, but they're on bad passes.
I think he had like 0 drops. I think last year. I think he's like in the past few years. Again, I'm not 100% the statistics. You can look it up. I think he's like in the like 1 or 2% of like least drop passes from receivers in the past few years.
So again, that's where that solidness comes from. They throw it to him, and they know it's not going to be his fault. He doesn't catch it.
Yeah.
I'm in on Jacoby easily, and then with the rookies, you can take a shot on one. I bet one of them is going to return value. Right now, if you want like high upside, it's Thornton, and if you want maybe a chance at a safer floor, it's Besh. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
Because realistically, whoever it is will be the third option behind Bowers and Myers. you can move him down the list if you think Genty's going to catch a ton of passes. But yeah, so there's value to be had there. Any other wide receivers you want to mention?
Yeah, I kind of already mentioned him, but just Wan'Dale Robinson. He is more of like the elite waiver wire pickup, and honestly, he's not really draftable. He's not going to get drafted. He just was. He's a young guy. He's not like this, old guy who like shows up sometimes. He was just taken a couple years ago, even like 22. And he's just so consistent, and he's done this with just terrible quarterbacks. And he's playing with possibly the best quarterback of his career in Russell Wilson. And Russell Wilson is a guy who likes to air it out at times when he can. And I could just see Robinson returning his PPR value again. He might have those donut weeks, and he's kind of like that wild card, but he's going to have weeks where he's going to go off for 8 receptions, 100 yards, and a touchdown or two. Like, it's not going to happen most weeks, but he's shown that he has that floor, at least in certain games throughout the season.
Yeah, and I mean, being cognizant of whatever's happening with Malik Neighbors, if that's a toe injury that ends up hanging around.
Who's wide receiver 1 on the Giants if Neighbors is out? Honestly.
It's Slayton.
Slayton's also somebody I could see myself targeting. I think Robinson maybe has safer weeks perhaps, but I really don't. Slayton is like the most, no offense to him, but he's like the most forgettable receiver. I forget he exists.
He helped me win a fantasy playoff game maybe 3 years ago where I had no business winning, and he scored a lot of points.
I like Robinson and best ball. He's one of my favorite best ball guys.
Fair. Yeah, my honorable mention just real quick is Keon Coleman with the Buffalo Bills. I only mentioned it because the Bills have also kind of an ambiguous situation with Khalil Shakir is maybe like the person people are looking for because he was the PPR machine. But I can see Keon Coleman not having a full breakout necessarily year 2, but having a upgrade in what he did as a rookie. And I believe there's injuries during his rookie season as well. But yeah, Keon Coleman's someone who I'm targeting. He's going 127, so he's pretty late as well.
I'll just say any wide receiver, especially a young wide receiver that's taken in the first round of the NFL draft, is being drafted as a potential wide receiver 1 on their team. Just straight up. I mean, maybe there's exceptions like Xavier Worthy, like he was maybe more of a compliment. Like, just you can like pick and choose here, but I think that Coleman was drafted to be at least a potential wide receiver 1. So there's a spot there.
Yeah. And what I've heard is that they think that Josh Palmer, who came in, is going to be the speed guy to open up routes underneath, which could help both Shakir and Coleman.
Mm-hmm.
You could take that for however you will, but Keon Coleman's the one out of this room I'm taking, and I have faith that one of them will also return value.
Mm-hmm.
We'll move on to the tight ends. The tight end sleepers, we have just a few for you. So we're going to start off with Jake Ferguson.
So Jake Ferguson of the Dallas Cowboys, he's someone I was super high on last year, and I feel like he was like the most talked about tight end sleeper, just based on where he was at in his career and what he had done, what he had built upon in the 23 season. And then Dak gets injured, and Ferguson takes a hit, and then Ferguson gets injured and takes a hit. I see no reason why he can't have this year what he potentially had last year. And last year he was going in I think the 7th round or maybe even higher than that. There was so much hype on him, and I feel like everyone's forgotten about him. And he just signed a 4-year lot of money, $1 million contract. Like, he is a part of this team. This is a team that doesn't have a good run game. This is Dak Prescott in a odd numbered year. I just feel like he has, again, I'll never knock because they brought in George Pickens, but Dak likes his tight ends, and there's no reason to fade Ferguson when he had so much hype last year. It's injury. It was Dak injury. It was Jake injury. Like, I don't understand the fade at all.
Yeah, and that's fair. I don't have any issues with Jake Ferguson as a sleeper tight end. He's going at 123 currently, so that's pretty late. That's the 10th, 11th round.
Yeah,
and it's a solid guess to have a good year as any tight end. Really, there is upside there because the running back game, in my opinion, is so bad that they could use him for touchdowns.
Yeah, my big thing is also that they paid him. I think tells me something.
He's part of the team.
Yeah.
So I have no issues there. I'll move on to the next one. Zach Ertz and the Commanders tight ends. So Ben Sinnott is also going to be included in this. And no one really wants to talk about Zach Ertz. I know it. It's fine. He's old. But he was used pretty heavily last year by Jaden Daniels. And again, we've talked about the Commanders a couple different times now. They should have a good offense. Zach Ertz is going to be part of that good offense. And if it's not Zach Ertz, if he gets hurt, then it's Ben Sinnott.
And I mean, Ben Sinnott, like, I feel like he kind of had a down, I almost say down year because he was a rookie, but he just wasn't on the field a whole lot because they had that reliability from Zach Ertz.
Mm-hmm.
And I like Zach Ertz this year too, especially where he's going, which is not, I think.
No, Zach Ertz is at 156. So
okay, that's like the 13th round. Okay, so there's that. But with Sinnott, like, he was taken, day 2, I believe, and the big knock against him is just that we didn't see a whole lot of him last year. But
Yep.
There could be more to the story there. Again, this is an ascending offense, possibly top 5, could be the best offense in the NFL. Who knows? It has that potential, and you want to get players that are on a good offenses that maybe we don't know the full story from last year. So I like Sinnott a little bit more, I think.
And Sennate's free, $293. So
yeah. So, but I think that these are both guys to look at.
All right, and then I'm going to force Willie to talk about this next guy.
Okay, so you already know who I'm going to talk about, and I want to present to you a few arguments that maybe aren't just obvious ones. Okay, so it's Kyle Pitts. All right, whatever. Okay, so there's 3 big reasons here that I like him, and maybe I'll think of another one. But real quick, number 1, the unknown is Michael Penix. Kyle Pitts looked really good last year, like by his standards, with a few games of Penix. He's played with just terrible and old QBs his entire career. Penix is like, at least like objectively on paper, the best quarterback he's ever played with. So there's that. Also, Darnell Mooney just went down with an injury. I think we mentioned that. Darnell Mooney was on my sleeper list until that injury. So in theory, Kyle Pitts is like the de facto wide receiver 2 on this team, unless you want to consider Bijan the wide receiver 2, which you could. So he's like the de facto wide receiver 2. I don't really care for Ray McLeod, no offense. So he's gonna have to get targets. Like, they can't just run the ball with Bijan constantly. And like the other, like, maybe hopium pick is just that, like, maybe Pitts is having a good year and then he gets traded to something like I don't know, like the Patriots or the Bengals or like some team that's win now and he explodes. I just think that if you're drafting Kyle Pitts, you're going to get him as like your tight end 2 dart throw, and that's totally worth it for me.
Yeah, he's at 140.
Yes.
I can't say good things about Kyle Pitts. I think I had him 3 years in a row, so I'm not a smart man on that one.
That's on you. Yeah.
Well, you had the argument that is Penix better than Matt Ryan?
Yes. Come on.
Oh, I mean, okay. I don't have a lot to say about Kyle Pitts. I can understand why you would do it. He's clearly got the skill set.
Well,
and
skill set. Thank you. Not the skill.
Yeah, the skill set. I don't know that he has the skill. That's my biggest worry with Kyle Pitts is that it just looks like he didn't care a lot of the time. And like he was playing games where he couldn't make his. I can't remember if it was the right side or the left side of the field. He couldn't switch sides of the field. I don't know. Who knows? That's poor route running or what? But like it just. I was some issues with him as opposed to with the offense, which worries me more.
Yeah, that's fair. And if he cares at all, I mean, he's in a contract year. They picked up his 5th-year option, so this is his make or break year. So if he cares at all, he's got to care this year.
That's true. That's true. And this would be a good year to care. Honorable mention for me is just going to be Mason Taylor of the New York Jets. That's another rookie. I don't have like a ton of hope for him, but he theoretically is the second best receiving option on the Jets coming in, and he was drafted, I think, day 2.
He was, yeah. He's a son of a Hall of Famer? Question mark.
Yeah, Jason Taylor.
Yeah.
I've heard good things about his receiving skills. And he's in New York Jets receiving tight end. Tight ends are hard because also I don't know. Who knows? Like once you get to sleeper picks, it is literally who do you think is going to catch the most passes or touchdowns?
Yeah, 100%. And also sleeper for me too is we talked about him. I just talked about him a lot last week, but Terrence Ferguson of the Los Angeles Rams, like. He has that gut feeling, and then just things possibly falling into place for me, where he could be a top 5 tight end. Like, I really think so.
Yeah. It's just that offense is so cool.
Yeah.
And this is LA Rams, in case we didn't say that. I don't remember. Okay, so that's our sleepers for this week.
I did want to run real quick, and I want to run off some just rookies.
Run them off. Let's do it.
So with running backs, Dylan Sampson, Quinshaw Judkins might be suspended. 4th round pick, maybe hit him. Ollie Gordon II on the Dolphins. The Dolphins running backs get injured a lot. Ollie Gordon was the best running back in college football 2 years ago. 6th round pick, he could hit. And with wide receivers, we mentioned Stefon Diggs. I'm going to shout out Kyle Williams. He's getting a lot of hype though. And that's really about it. They did release Noah Fant on the Seahawks, and 2nd round pick Elijah Arroyo is apparently looking really good, and he's like the de facto tight end there. So rookies are always sleepers if they're drafted within the first 4 rounds, in my opinion. And if you're a guy that likes rookies, go for it.
Cool. That's fair. So check them out. All right. So until next week, doink out.
Doink out.